So it turns out that Diddy was the man in the van with the candy after all. Now, this whole video came together or is coming together courtesy of a video that I saw yesterday, or this morning, who knows at this point. And also, happy Sabbath, everybody. The sun is setting, it is Friday. And of course, it being the Sabbath, y'all know the videos is about to hit. Okay, there's already 2 videos uploading as we speak. Now, I was watching this video and it was like an old school, like I say old school, it was just an older advert. And in the advert, I can't remember what the advert was for. It was for something really, really, really like trivial. Oh, roller skating. It's about roller skating. And basically in the advert, they had lots of very sus characters who approached some kids and the kids were not interested. I think this advert was from like the 90s, and the kids are not interested in the candy from this man in the van or these other sus characters because or somebody that offered them like crack or something, and somebody offered them whatever, and they denied it all because the only thing they wanted to be addicted to and the only thing that they wanted was roller skates. And it just made me think about how I've said to you guys many a time, and I've said it so many times on this channel, that in the nearly 1,600 or over 1,600 videos that I've made, that there is not a look to a predator. There is not a look like this whole bold dude in the freaking wife beaters, in some washed up looking Levi's, with the dad bod peeking out of his van, offering kids sweets, has become like the caricature of predators. And this is why we have to talk about this, because every time we as a society don't actually stop to pay attention to the greater signs, the deeper signs, and the things that we may not expect, yeah, there are victims and people have to pay. The reason why I am so passionate about these topics and about people who have been victims of predators, and I'm so passionate about protecting children and education, is because I am highly aware of the fact that a lot of times people that do things to these individuals, heinous things, right, will present to the world this lovely, wholesome, generous, kind of like personality. We see the same thing happening with Mr. Beast, right? Because people are in shock and horror, which I am not. I have said only briefly, because I know that the culture of today, as soon as anybody questioned Mr. Beast in the previous years, it was always like, oh, you're just not happy that somebody's doing good for the world. Even though now he's actually come out and literally said that whenever he's not getting enough attention or he's getting bad press, that's when he tends to go and decide to build wells in whatever country or pay for everybody's surgeries, because he actually knows what he's doing, and he knows that it will sway the jury of the sheeple. He knows it will create a narrative to the world that, oh yeah, I'm doing all of this good, so I must be a good person, right? The same as all of these Bill Gateses and all of their Bill Gates Foundation, and we've donated X amount of money to such and such. Even though, once again, I don't know how people have allowed Bill Gates to become some pharmaceutical medical professional when bro literally is an expert in computing and technology, and now this man is advising and having a big role in things like the World Health Organization. The World Health Organization, by the way, who, as we speak, while all of this stuff is going on, has been meeting up to have all of these meetings and forming all of these pacts as to what we're going to do as a world together if another pandemic happens, and all this stuff. We won't get into all of that. This is all information you can find on the internet, and the only reason you're only hearing about this for the first time now is because if you don't research, they are bombarding you with other things to focus your attention on, like the ridiculous laugh of none other than presidential candidate Kamala Harris. Yeah. So here's what I want to say to you guys. We have to get out of this thinking that there is a look that constitutes a good person or a bad person, or a predator, or a I don't know, what's a philanthropist, or I hate, that's a word that just grinds my gears. It really does grind my gears, because people say, oh, I'm a philanthropist, I do this, I do that, and I just, all of that. the world eats it up. Like with Mr. Beast, everybody ate it up. And the funny thing for me with Mr. Beast was always that I always felt like him and his fame is so telling of the world, because it's not, I don't believe that people love Mr. Beast because he was generous. I believe that people love Mr. Beast because they felt like if they ever met him, they could also be a benefitor of all the various things that he does for people. So I don't believe that it was all because people are like so genuinely loving that he's giving. I believe it's because, and he does it himself. He intentionally and strategically made sure and makes sure to always be giving out free money. You know why? Because then people think, oh, he's so generous. He's so generous. He gives out money to everybody. If I ever met Mr. Beast, wow, I met Mr. Beast and this money changed my life. Yada yada yada. We're gonna talk about money next. Hold on. So, he got away with it because everybody thought he was this giving, loving. It's like the Kris Jenner effect. Oh, she's a loving mother. Look at how much she does for her kids. We're going to stage all these scenes in Keeping Up with the Kardashians, all these photos of the paparazzi and all these things where we saw her buying ice cream for Stormy and for North and for Mason. And we saw all of this stuff. Oh my gosh, she's such a loving mother, because she said that Rob's not on Keeping Up with the Kardashians at the moment because Rob's going through a lot right now and he's on medication, probably a conservatorship if you ask me, but we won't get into that. Let's not forget that Kris Jenner is bestie buddies with none other than our favorite, Lou M. Taylor, or as those of us who know her true nature, we like to call her Lucifer Taylor. Yeah, her. Yeah. Another trusted person in society and loved and whatever, Oprah. Oprah Winfrey. Oh my gosh, you get a car. No, you get a car. No, you get a car. Everybody gets a car. But his bestie buddies with Harvey Weinstein and all these other Eanes in the mix, Epstein, Ellen DeGeneres, another one. All these people have had people that have been trying to ring the alarm bells for years, right? And it infuriates me because it's like, how many people do you think got hurt along the way while we were busy believing people just because they put on a play for you? And you'd rather judge somebody who doesn't have everything perfectly together and constitute them as not a bad person or doing things in bad taste, like Cat Williams, for one. Everybody's loving Cat Williams now, or to use a crude term that everybody is using these days, everybody's meat riding him. Somebody actually accused me of that in one of my previous videos where I was talking about Logan Paul, KSI, and Mr. Beast. And what they didn't understand is that I wasn't saying I was in favor of their behavior. I was saying that adults need to hold themselves accountable, and Logan Paul did not force your hand to invest. You in your own critical brain that the Lord gave you, in your own logical thinking, made your own risk. Anybody who's ever done any crypto, of which I have myself, knows the risks attached. You may lose all of your money. You may gain loads of money. That's the point of these types of currencies and all this type of investments, trading, and all this stuff is you don't know what might happen, and things can happen that can shift the game very quickly. That's why I think Elon Musk was very strategic in buying Twitter, from a standpoint of he knows that his tweet and the fact that he owns, or his, I don't know what they call it now. I don't know. I don't even know if Twitter's even on my phone anymore. I completely deleted all my Twitter accounts. Anyway, he knows that he can write a tweet, and in one tweet he can spike the amount of money that a certain coin is worth, or whatever asset, you name it. So it's all a big game that they're playing, and you're the pawns in the game. That's what I'm trying to say. I always say, if life's a game, guys, if we're going to accept that life's a game, and if we're going to have a winning mentality, if we're going to live a winning lifestyle, we have to start to play the game like winners, and we have to start to play the game strategically. We have to start to understand. It's like when you play poker and all these other types of things, right? Where odds and things are involved. People look out for tells. People look out for, how can I spot what this person is doing? People try to bluff other people. It's all a game with magicians. That's why the Bible says that the enemy comes disguised as an angel of light, right? Everybody was, like I said, meat riding Mr. Beast. Oh my gosh, he's doing so much. And now that, his ex-employee has been found to do X, Y, and Z, now that allegedly, now that even he has seemed to be involved in conversations. I mean, the story gets worse and worse. And when people like Rosanna Panzino, which I'm happy for her, I don't really consume her content because she doesn't really make content that I personally find super interesting. Although I do think she's a very beautiful girl, and I think she's very engaging and interesting, and good for her. I'm happy for her. And when she first came out, because I remember she was the first one. She was the first one who came out and said that she had been on a Mr. Beast video and that things had been adjusted negatively, like in the filming. And when she did come out with everything that she was saying, nobody really cared, because people were like, oh, so what if Mr. Beast did whatever? He's a YouTuber. Things get edited. Things get this. He probably wanted to have the more engaging scenes for the communities, for the people watching. And those are valid points. Does not mean her point is invalid. But look at how the tables have turned now, because now that people are coming out and people need a big enough platform to create enough noise, where are all the voiceless people that were also victims of Mr. Beast going to? Rosanna Panzino. I don't think that probably in her brain at any point in time she believed that she would become some type of expose channel, and I'm sure she felt isolated. I felt for her when she spoke up. I thought, yep, that's something I'd expect. I expect all these types of rigging, because she was talking about the games being rigged completely. Now, one of the things that I appreciate about the Sidemen, which is why I'm very disappointed that JJ's involved himself with Mr. Beast again. And for me, I just feel like he's crossed the line now. For me, this is the first time KSI's crossed the line for me. Because for the most part, he makes horrific jokes and all this, that, and the other, but him and the Sidemen, I do not believe, are engaging in these types of activities. But if he's really going to be going hard for Mr. Beast like this, and with like the way that he is and all of that, then it's not looking good. Not to mention the fact that I do also think that a lot of influencers now are afraid to go against Mr. Beast or cut him off or not produce the content that was being agreed before everything came out, because he is an absolute giant. He may have come after a lot of these people, but he's soaring far ahead. Back to Rosanna Panzino. So I don't think she expected to be here, but when all of that stuff went down, she people were not listening, and I felt for her, because I was like, girl, I hear you, I believe you, and I see you, right? I hear you, I believe you, and I see you. But I know ain't nobody gonna care about what you gotta say, because everybody is so enchanted and under the spell of Mr. Beast, the generous guy who goes around giving people money. Even if you get kicked out of his show where you're supposed to win $1 million, he will give you randomly $10,000 in cash as you walk off the set, just because he'll give you, whatever amount of dollars in cash if he bumps into you and you're subscribed to his channel. He's a genius. You know who these people remind me of as well? This is why it's all so interesting. I love to study people like this, because you see me, my gaming strategies is I believe in a game, right? And this is why I'm really good at games. Because one thing about games is I don't just play the game as in playing it myself. I spend a lot of time observing the strengths and weaknesses and the gameplay strategies of the people I'm playing with, right? So I'm aware of my own strengths and weaknesses, so I play into them, my strengths and weaknesses. I know what things I'm good at, and I know what things I'm not good at in all different types of games. And I know how to take advantage. So, for example, one of my advantages in games is if I just seem aloof, because of course, I've got a baby face, I'm a young woman, and I'm bubbly, yeah. So people never think I'm paying attention to the little things. People tend to put their guard down. So that's one of my game playing strategies, is I just play the dum-dum. I play the dum-dum, and then I wait to strike. And when I strike heavy and I strike hard. And then when I do, people are always completely shocked with the fact that I've obliterated them. Because you know what I do? I wait for this thing that I know that always happens with people who are playing a game and who get caught up thinking that they know what they're doing, right? Because I've learned from the Bible, because I'm a daughter of the Lord, I'm a daughter of the Most High, that a lot of people, when they think they're winning, most people lose in the last minutes when they were just about to win. It's exactly like what we're seeing in the entertainment industry and everything. The devil thought that he was so far ahead that he got cocky. That's what people do in games. There always comes a point when if you let somebody else think that they're winning, they think that they're above you, they think that they're smarter than you, and they get cocky. If they just stayed the course, maybe they would have won. Probably not, because I was plotting and planning, observing them while they were just enjoying, not even paying attention to me, because they think I'm aloof and stupid and dumb. And then in the moment where they drop their guard, their pride has overcome them, I obliterate them. That's my gaming strategy. So yeah, don't mess with me in this season. So this is what I'm saying to you guys. Like, this is how these people work. I, as a game player, I recognize that, like, when you're playing, you have to be aware of your enemy, you have to study your enemy, and you have to look for the little things that seem off, that give you the clues to something greater that's going on, right? Because if people did that with me when they played games with me, they would notice. Some people will say, oh no, she's cheating, there's no way she did that. And I'm like, if you watched and heard and listened to every single thing that I said along the way, you would have known that I was telling you exactly what the game is. Like, for example, the game Mafia, which is similar to the game Among Us, right? It's the same concept. I love that game, right? And if you don't know the game, I'll explain it. You know, like how a lot of games have a different name everywhere? Anyway, it's the one where you play a game. If you're playing it with like people in a group and you play it with cards, I love this game, by the way. And what usually happens is you pick a card, I think it's the king. And if, say, there's a group of you, there's like maybe 8 of you, and you all pick a card out of the 8 cards of a normal pack of like 52 cards. You'll pick out 8 cards, and 2 cards of them will be a king, and that means you're the mafia or the imposter, right? And the aim of the game is for the mafia, the imposters, to get everybody else out and win. And if they do, they win. And the aim of the others is to get rid of the imposters or the mafia, and then they win. Now, I love this game, and one of my tactics in this game is I don't know why I'm telling you guys this, right? But it doesn't matter because my gameplay is at such a deep level. So one of my tactics in this game, and it works well, is when I am the mafia, I will say that I am immediately the game starts. Because it sends everybody into oblivion. Because they're like, they can't figure out whether I am or I'm not, because why would I say that I am if I actually am? Because then that's stupid, right? But then also the fact that I'm saying they am and they think that it's stupid means that they don't think that they am, and I tend to go through the game. And then at the very end of the game, when they realize I am the mafia, they're like, oh my gosh, and you literally said it. And I'm like, exactly, I know. That's what these people do. There are little clues, little signs, things that are being said. There are like little things that if you were paying attention, if you were listening to what was being said, like people are even saying, you know, bringing up clips now of Diddy from before, bringing up clips now of so-and-so from before, all these things. Dan Schneider's another one, right? I remember that growing up, I used to find it really creepy how there was always feet in like all the shows, like all the Nickelodeon shows, especially iCarly and all those shows. I always found it really creepy, personally, because I'm not somebody that loves people's feet. Unless I love you as a person, I don't like feet in general. Keep that to yourself. You know what I'm saying? I'm just not a big person who, like, I'm just not the gal, you know what I'm saying? Again, like I said, unless you're somebody that I love, then of course, you know. That's why I think it's just insane that Jesus chose to wash the feet of the disciples, and that's when I knew that Jesus' love was real. Among many other things, obviously, like defeating death and dying on the cross for everybody, but yeah. So, that ever existed. So I thought that was creepy anyway. And again, it was a sign, it was a clue for the adult population at large, to have been paying attention to. But did we? No, we didn't. Just like so many of the other child stars in the entertainment industry, right? They go in, they're super talented from super young, like Amanda Bynes. You guys know we have a whole series about her, just like we do Britney, just like we do a lot of child stars, right? They start out, they're bright, they're bubbly, they're talented, they love what they do, they're really skillful at it. Like Amanda Bynes is very skillful at comedy. She's a very funny person, right? But then when things turn badly, what's the first thing people do? Oh, the fame is getting to them. They can't handle being in the industry. These people are still showing up and doing their job and doing it better than you ever could. So whatever is affecting them and why we're seeing them in that state, I don't think it's the job. I think it's something else. That's like when people are like, oh, Britney, she's gone off the rails. You guys know how I feel about Britney Spears, right? Because she's the reason why she's like the root cause of a lot of this stuff for certain child stars. Because when her mum suggested Lou M. Taylor, i.e. Lucifer Taylor, to her dad, to Britney's dad, Lou M. Taylor did not have that many clients. She's now runs TriStar Sports and Entertainment Group, one of the biggest sports and entertainment management groups, and she now manages multiple different artists and athletes. Also bestie buddies with Kris Jenner, mind you. Not to mention the fact that Kris Jenner has a church, which they all used to launder their money because, of course, historically, when we were real Christians, the church would get, their taxes returned. You can, like in churches today, you still do it. I think that's great because churches do a lot of free work. Churches that are really driven by the Lord and not these other churches. We're going to come to L. Ron Hubbard in a second because Scientology, it's all the same. All of it's the same, right? So I'm saying about studying your enemy and how you have to study your enemy if you want to play a good game, and you've got to be aware of what they're doing, right? So what was I saying? So Lou M. Taylor, so when she started out, she didn't have that many clients, but her working with Britney Spears' parents and finding Britney, who again, very, very super talented, so good at what she does, very skillful, right, musician, right? You guys know who've been here that I read her book. I have her book. I haven't finished reading it because it got too painful to read, to be honest, the further I got into it. And while she was still doing her Las Vegas residency in 2019, after having already been in a conservatorship, after already having her kids dangled as a carrot and used as a way to blackmail her, after being on lithium, which was also something that her grandfather had her grandmother on, so it's even giving generational curses and all sorts, was still doing a Vegas residency and teaching her own dances. When she was pregnant and everybody was saying all this, that, and the other, she would show up to the studio, sing for 30 minutes in 1 or 2 takes her songs, and then leave. And then the song would go out and would be hitting number ones and all sorts, this, that, and the other. That Britney Spears. Give Me More music video, her and her friends, this is the time in her life when she was starting to take ownership of her career. What did she decide to do? She didn't want to have to use all the big Hollywood, this, that, and the other. So you know what she decided to do? I'm going to record a video with my friends at the bar. And that's where the Give Me More music video comes from. Britney. She's the one who decided how she wanted the Oops, I Did It Again video to look and the aesthetic of it all. Right? But then so she's clearly good at what she does and she clearly can do it anyways. But then when she's now taking drugs, or not taking drugs, when she's now looking not okay, and when she's now, seemingly struggling and having all these stories, the immediate thought is, oh, the fame is getting to her. Even though for those who would have been around, this is what I'm saying, for those who would have been around, those who were signing NDAs, those who knew of things, were keeping their mouths shut. That's why even Britney says that she's not in favor of Christina Aguilera because she knows Christina Aguilera is just another one of the people that was seeing what was going on and was keeping it shh. This is always been my thing with the child stars, because I'm like, I've been on sets for things. I've worked in the entertainment industry. When you're filming something, there are so many people, and I haven't been on these big level Hollywood productions. I don't know why we ever call it Hollywood anymore. I don't know why there's so many people on these productions. It's insane. Even the Sidemen videos. I was watching one of the Sidemen videos earlier this year, right? And one of the videos is probably one of my favorite videos of the year, if not my favorite video of the year, of the Sidemen. And they did a $100 versus $100,000 winter holiday. It was a 3-hour video. It was amazing. And they did all the things that I would love to do, because I love to go on a winter holiday. I've never been on one. I like the cold. I'm loving that it's winter now, coming into winter soon, and I can't wait for it to just be icy and cold, and I can't wait to be frostbitten and all sorts, right? So I love that video. The thing that stuck out to me was at the very end, the number of people on the set of the Sidemen videos. All to say that there are plenty of people seeing, knowing what's going on these sets. There are plenty of signs that we can see. And we'd rather think that, oh, there's this specific look of a predator. The bald dude with the beer belly in the wife beater and the washed up, banged up Levi looking jeans in a van offering kids sweets. And yet it's actually Diddy. Diddy is the man in the van with the baby oil, offering record deals. But for what? For what and at what cost? And this is what I'm saying. The same reason why a kid would trust somebody that's offering them candy, something that they want, something that their parents probably tell them they can't eat after 5 p.m. because they won't go to sleep, or they can't eat too much of because it's going to rot their teeth, or they can't eat because they haven't eaten their dinner, or whatever is the reason. They are now being offered something that they really want. They're not counting the cost. They're not thinking about what the intentions of somebody offering me so much of something that I want more than anything. Let's talk about JoJo, ladies and gentlemen. Who remembers when we talked about JoJo for a while? And how when she was 13, you know that song Too Little Too Late by JoJo? Which she doesn't even own any of those songs, by the way, because she was one of the worst off with these Hollywood record deals. What did the entertainment industry offer her? Oh, they said, oh, her and her mum were broke. They needed somewhere to live. They needed all these things. Oh, we'll give you a record deal. We'll put you up in an apartment. We'll give you a whatever. You know what they do? They make it all sound so sexy and so attractive. Oh, I'll give you all this stuff ahead of time. We're going to give you a bonus, or we're going to give you, what's that? I can't think of the word. You guys know the word. The word for like when you give somebody something that they're supposed to get, but you give it to them ahead of time. So it would be like if you get paid at the end of the month, but your boss pays you halfway through the month. An advance. We're going to give you a part of an advance of your money you're going to make on this deal. Just sign on the dotted line. It's the man in the van with the candy. That's what I'm saying to you guys. You guys understand? It's so funny that we can typecast a person based on their outward appearance, but we can't evaluate somebody based on their actions. We can love when somebody's so generous, right? The same way a kid would be like, oh my gosh, candy, a man in a van with candy, hell yeah, right? Even one of the students I was with today was telling me about how much they're looking forward to Halloween and yada 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 and all this, right? But then we're the same adults who don't stop to go, well, why are they doing this? Oh, because they're just a good person. So how is it that the child is also not supposed to know that that's a good person? We say, don't talk to strangers. And yet, predominantly, the predominance of, or the most predators are close friends and family. Close friends and family. Trusted characters in society. In the entertainment industry. Teachers. Do you know how much I've been thinking about, right? Especially because at my job right now, they've just decided once again that they want to update the safeguarding rules again, and we need to do another quiz again about the new safeguarding rules. Now, the reason why I'm saying this to you guys is because I truly believe you're either predator or you're not at the end of the day. If you are, you need deliverance. It's the only answer for you. So the worst thing you can do to a predator is actually train them in safeguarding. People who work with children like myself are the people who are prepared the best to actually be the predators, because they know how to find the loopholes. I'll give you guys an example, right? As an adult, as a teacher, I'm not allowed, according to the safeguarding rules, to hug a child first or touch a child first. If they touch me first and I respond, so if a kid comes up to hug me, I don't have to be like, get away from me, the safeguarding rules. I can hug them back, for example, but I'm not allowed to initiate a hug. Can you see how there's loopholes that can easily be manipulated? Can you see how people can be in a particular career, like even mine, like, oh my gosh, teachers, the work you guys do is so important. Yeah, it is. If you really think it is, please, can you all protest along the rest of us for that to be reflected in our bank accounts and our lifestyles? That would be so amazing. But on a deeper level, the sheer fact that you think that me working with kids is so noble is the sheer reason why you will not question if me or suspect me for doing anything heinous. It's the same thing with the mother's love thing that I tell you guys about. That's why a lot of the most heinous people are through women. Generous, loving, mother type figures. Michelle Obama, right? Oh, she's so lovely. She's so caring. When you go high, when they go low, you go high, yada, yada, yada. You're going to automatically trust these people because purely based on what you can see and how you're perceiving it. This is why I think this is literally the curse of Adam and Eve. It's the same old story. That's why I don't think anybody ever needs to be judging Adam and Eve for nothing, because you're the dang same. You have the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, and you have the tree of life. You can have life, literally life, living the abundance of an eternity and an infinite source of everything. Or you can choose knowledge of good and evil. And then in your finite time that you're alive, in your finite existence, in the finite capacity of your brain, you somehow think you alone are going to be able to make the required conclusions. You know, last night I was questioning ChatGPT about a few things, because I like to ask ChatGPT deep scientific questions and just random questions, right? And I was asking ChatGPT about what is the recommended daily requirements for adults for micronutrients and minerals, right? And then I started to question ChatGPT about, what if it turns out that at some point in the future we realize that we were wrong because, and I'm paraphrasing my question because I put it into very scientific language. We realize we're wrong because of the finite nature of our capacity as humans to consider every possible variable, and also the limitations of the amount of science we currently have, given the time that's already elapsed and where we're at right now. And I asked ChatGPT, is there a possibility that at a certain point in the future, all of this could be flipped on its head? And of course, ChatGPT agrees with every single thing that I said. Every single thing that I said. Right? Exactly. Even when I started to ask about reputable peer reviews, I asked ChatGPT, okay, so, and I was asking ChatGPT as well, like about God. I was like, do you believe in God? I'm an AI. I do not have a belief system, blah, 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 blah. And I was asking these questions. One of my questions then became, so you've quoted peer-reviewed research as an evidence of a reputable source for research. I was like, so therefore, since it is peer-reviewed research done by humans, is not the testimony of Homo sapiens not as equally valuable? I was having a lot of fun with ChatGPT at like 4 a.m, because these are the things I'd be thinking about, so I don't sleep. But anyway, I do sleep like a couple hours a day. But anyway, it's not important. All to say that we as people, let me not even go there. Let's go to my next example. Women and the sexual abuse of women from women, right? Because men have taken on the entire breadth of all or most allegations of anything pertaining to predatorial behavior, whether that be of a sexual or physical manner. Because why? The mother's love. Because why? Women are to be trusted. We are supposed to be nurturing. We would never hurt kids. And once again, it has been another great tool, because there are many folks out there, men and women, who have found themselves in predicaments where they have gone through those traumas. And why don't they have a voice, and why don't we hear about it? For the same reason we didn't hear about the victims of Mr. Beast, for the same reason we didn't hear about the victims of Diddy, for the same reason people didn't take seriously or pay attention to the victims of R. Kelly. Because the person that is doing the doing is entrusted. Let's talk about the church. Priests, popes, pastors. Let's talk about it. Why do they get away with these heinous crimes behind the scenes? Because they wear a suit on Sunday and they talk about the love of God and how children are a heritage from the Lord, like having a quiver full of arrows, and that if anybody hurts one of these young ones, he should throw himself in the sea with a millstone, and how God tells us to have childlike faith. And they spit all these things. They have a lovely, beautiful wife. They got their little toddlers running around, right? Their daughter runs the children's church. Their son plays the drums. Right? They do the word of God. They volunteer at the soup. They open up the church for the soup kitchen. They run a daycare. They do couples counseling and family counseling. They dedicate their whole life while being unpaid to the work of God and their people. They could never, not ever, be held possibly accountable or guilty. Do you see how truly stupid we are on our own? Do you see how flawed human understanding actually is? This is why I like maths and science. It is quantitative. You look at the data, it's not about your feelings, it's not about what it looks like, it's about what it is. And the data speaks for itself. This is what I'm saying. Like with R. Kelly, for example. Why were people... The data spoke for itself. He had a bed in the studio. He and also others would go out to malls, and go and pick up underage girls and do what? The candy strategy. Hey, you want to be on a track? The world sat back while he was there with Aaliyah, who is now no longer even with us. And then the world was all like, oh my gosh, we lost a good one. You didn't care about a good one. You were too busy protecting R. Kelly. I'm here in, I don't know if it was this year, I think it was last year or the year before. I'm watching pastors, or at least one of them definitely a pastor, the other one I'm not sure if he is, discussing R. Kelly. And you know what they're saying? Should we separate the artist from the music? So when it's R. Kelly, so when it's Mr. Beast, so when it's Diddy, we want to separate the artist from the music. We want to focus solely on the fact that they're giving money to everybody or record deals. We want to focus on all of those things. And anything that's uncomfortable, we choose to ignore. And then we wonder why the world is the way that it is. And then we have the audacity to then go to God and say, God, if you're real, why is there suffering? They're suffering because we are here and we are stupid. The Bible says in Hosea 4:6, my people perish for a lack of knowledge. Let's actually check if that's correct. This is about to get even deeper. Listen to this, right? So Hosea 4:6, I'm reading the NIV version. It says, because you have rejected knowledge, I was doing the NKJV, the New King James Version. My people are destroyed for a lack of knowledge. Because you've rejected knowledge, I will reject you from being priest for me. In the NIV version, it says, because you have rejected knowledge, I also reject you as my priest. Because you have ignored the law of your God, I will ignore your children. This is deep. God is saying, you have a choice. You have a brain. I gave you everything you possibly could need so that if you want to do things your way, you can. But I'm telling you, if you do things your way, the answer is death. Death and destruction. I.e., the wages of sin is death. If you eat from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, you shall surely die. However, if you follow me and you trust in me, then I will give you the tools. I will give you the discernment. The reason why I have known and I have spotted so many of these people over the years is largely in part, is predominantly in part, is predominantly because I am a Holy Spirit filled, Bible believing follower of Jesus Christ. And therefore, first of all, I don't even need to see the proof because the Holy Spirit discernment bells be ringing off. That's part one. Part two is that the Lord has given me wisdom in order to spot these things, in order to eradicate the problems, i.e., the devil comes disguised as an angel of light. He explains what his types of people who are walking in his power do, the fruits of the Spirit, which is, I believe, in Galatians 5:22. Is that right? If I remembered that scripture for finally, I'm going to be so happy with myself. Right? Love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, self-control. Galatians 5? I think it's Galatians 5:22. It is not Galatians 5:22. Oh, maybe it is. Yes. Sorry, my whole life I've struggled to remember scriptures off by heart, but then recently, I don't know, I'm just remembering them. Galatians 5:22. Be the fruits of the Spirit is love, but the fruit of the Spirit is love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control. And then it goes on to say about against these there is no limitation in doing such. Can we go to the scripture before, because it talks about the opposite of the fruits of the spirit. That's what I'm saying. God literally be telling us. So I don't know why we're confused. Oh, here we go. So starting from verse 19, now the works of the flesh are evident, which are adultery, fornication, uncleanness, lewdness. You know what? Let's go to the Passion Translation, because the Passion Translation be my favorite translation these days. Okay. Aha, the behavior. So in verse 19, Galatians 5, the behavior of the self life is obvious. Sexual or morality. So the self life, right? Self being the difference between being a child of the Lord and the child of the world, right? Or a child of the Lord and a child of the devil. Oh, they went there. Wow. Okay. The behavior of the self life is obvious. Sexual immorality, lustful thoughts, adults, television, chasing after things instead of God, manipulating others, hatred of those who get in your way, senseless arguments, resentment when others are favored, temper tantrums, angry quarrels, only thinking of yourself, being in love with your own opinions, being envious of the blessings of others, murder, uncontrolled addictions, wild parties, and all other similar behavior. Haven't I already warned you that those who use their freedom for these things will not inherit the kingdom realm of God, right? And the kingdom of God is not just something that we experience in heaven, it's something we experience on earth. That's what I'm saying. If you choose God and you choose to walk with him, then you are freed and protected from a lot of these things, right? So the things that who's doing, it's not God, it's the world, it's humans, it's us who's protecting these, it's us who's protecting these people, it's us who's protecting them. God is trying to tell us how to know what's what and who's who. God's trying to give us discernment through the Holy Spirit that Christians don't even believe in today. And we are the ones who are opening the doors to these people. We are the ones who are siding with them. We, the jury of the sheeple, are the ones who go and we pay money. We're trying to separate the artist from the music. So you still want to put money in R. Kelly's bank account. Right. Cool. Oh, I don't like what Dan Schneider did or whatever they did, but you know what? I still want to rewatch iCarly. No. Yeah, I know that such and such or so and so did whatever they did, but man, the music is so good. You're enslaved. This is what he's talking about. It's the worldliness. It's your own choice. God didn't force you. God didn't force any of us to do it. God did not force any of these people to have a platform. We did. We give them our attention. We give them our money. We give them our time. All the things that God gave us to use as we saw fit. So this is why when people say, oh, if God is real, why is suffering in the world? I don't want to hear it from nobody. There's suffering in the world because of us. Because us, in our own flawed human thinking and finite evaluation skills, because there's only so many variables that we know of as a whole world and as a history. And even those are finite because there are still so much more to come, which is why science is still moving at 100 miles and everything is moving at 100 miles because there's still so much we don't know. I asked ChatGPT as well. I said, is it not fair to suggest that, since you can't concretely say that there isn't a God because science also hasn't proved that there isn't a God either. That's my question to other people. People are like, oh yeah, but science. I'm like, yeah, but science hasn't proved that God doesn't exist either. It might not prove that God does exist. You might say that some people haven't proved that God does exist, but also science also hasn't proved that he doesn't, which means that everything is still on the table. Which means if we discover, if our children, if all the generations from us 2,000 years from now have gotten to the point, because, ChatGPT was like, without the empirical scientific proof, such and such and such and such. So I said, okay, so what happens if there's empirical scientific proof one day that God exists? What happens to modern science? And would that not flip a lot of scientific theories on their heads? And ChatGPT was like, yes. So then what are you going to say then? Are you going to say, oh, the God created the suffering? No. You wanted to use your own flawed, finite understanding with your limited amount of known variables that, again, are largely in large part due to your circumstances, your upbringing, your perspective, your background and everything, right? And biased based on those things. And somehow we think that we know, we've figured it out. And that the only reason all this stuff is happening is because God, listen, this is what I'm saying. I don't want to hear that anymore from anybody. I don't want to hear it because we are the one who platforms these people. We are the one who logs in. If you're watching my video right now, It's not by force. The Lord did not force your hand. You saw the video, you saw the title, whatever you did saw you to get on the video, and you clicked on it. So that's why you're here. And maybe it was God who encouraged you, maybe it was the devil. Isn't that what's crazy? And that's why the Lord created for us to be critical thinkers, because he's like, listen, it could be either of us. But go and do the research and go and look at what I had to say about what my people do, what my people gain, what his people do, what his people gain. Pick which side you want to be on. Use your own critical thinking that you love to use so much, right? Man in the van with the candy. Yeah, go and use that. And when you go and use that, go and make your decision for yourself. And God is so gracious that he makes everything so simple that we don't need a whole huge wealth of understanding to restore our relationship. All we need is Christ, Romans 10:9. If you confess with your mouth that Jesus is Lord and believe in your heart he was raised from the dead, then you shall be saved. It's that simple. It's that simple. That's how simple God makes it to follow him, and then you just trust him to do the rest. Because why? He's the creator of the universe, and his knowledge is infinite, and his wisdom is infinite, and he knows what's going on behind the scenes, and he knows who's bluffing, and he knows what game somebody's playing, and he knows when I'm in a game and I'm playing aloof, and he knows when Mr. Beast was out here doing things with particular strategies, knowing that if he's seen to be giving money to everybody, that everybody's going to come running after him. And he knows that Diddy is utilizing the fact that he's put so many people on and support so many careers and has helped so many people that he's going to use it to his advantage to silence others, and he's going to have connections behind the scenes. And he knows that Dan Schneider is what he's really doing, and why there's always feet all the time in iCarly and this, that, and the other. And he knows about what's going on behind the scenes. He knows. And we're so pathetic and so stupid and so lacking in knowledge as a society, right? That we just have to, what do we have to do when we're faced with these truths? There has to be investigations. And the only time we can come to conclusions is there has to be proof. And if you're playing a game in the game of life against smart players in the game of life, they've already accounted for the fact that you're going to have to do all of that. And therefore they've covered their bases because they've thought 10 steps ahead, 2 steps ahead. I'm loving this Nick avocado story arc that's happening at the moment. 2 steps ahead. Oh, you want to come out and come clean? Are you still going to come clean if I'm prepared to give you 30 million? Oh, you want to come out and come clean? Are you still going to come out and come clean if you know that I'm going to take your whole entire career away from you? Oh, you want to come out and you want to come clean? Are you still going to come out and come clean if I'm going to kill all of your family members? Yeah. You see, this is why I think it's important that Jesus defeated death, because it means that there's nothing that the devil can dingle dangle. That's why you can't dingle dangle anything to me. I've been offered everything in this world that I could possibly imagine, and I don't want any of it, because Jesus defeated death. Death can never be dingle dangled in my face, and God is the infinite source of everything. God has an infinite bank account. God has infinite power. God has an infinite creativity. He's the greatest scientist of all time, literally, because he created everything, and he's probably laughing at how far back we are with science as a whole anyway. So stew on those thoughts today. Stew today as you come into the weekend, as it is the Sabbath, and think logically about the things that I've said. Think about how stupid we look telling kids not to trust the man in the van with the candy. Because we know that why is he doing that? There's something sus. Maybe sometimes that's what's happening in the world. Maybe that's why the Bible talks about wolves in sheep's clothing. Maybe that's why the Bible talks about demons disguised as angels of light. Maybe that's why. Maybe he's right. Thought of the day, huh? Because if life's a game, let's play to freaking win, for goodness sake. Study to show yourself approved, says the Bible. Part of that, study your enemy, my friend. Because if there's one thing I've learned in history from wars, is the great warriors that people like to talk about, all these various empires, they were men of strategy who studied their enemies, found their weaknesses, knew what they had to do in order to take over. They would go into wherever places they would go, and when they would get there, one of the first things they would do is turn all of the people there into slaves. Why? So those people cannot then revolt against them. They played a smart game. L. Ron Hubbard, he knows we're in a society where people want to believe in something, but they don't want to believe in God, right? Because it's uncomfortable, because then we're going to be held accountable. And also we have to acknowledge that God is everywhere and he can hear everything and he knows everything. We'll have to deal with all of the questions we don't want to ask him. So instead, he packaged Satanism in the form of science. It's not a being, it's a doing. We teach science here, but it's also a church, but it's also this, but it's also that. But there's also an endless pursuit of knowledge, because when you get into it, it's basically just a long-standing, long-running thing where you're always going to be needing to remove more and more thetans from yourself, and you're never going to the amount of time it's going to take for you to get back to your what is it, to remove your reactive mind, as he calls it, right? The amount of time that's going to take is not the amount of time that you'll have in your human life. It's just another way for the devil to waste our time focusing on the wrong things, so that we walk ourselves into distraction, and then we have the audacity to blame God. Anyways, I'm going to leave that there. If life's a game, let's play to win, you guys. Come on now. God loves you. I love you. I'll see you in my next one.